Hello everyone, I'm Jack Fisher and welcome to my world. And I want to start this video by restating something I've already admitted in previous videos. I love romance movies. By that I don't just mean movies with romantic subplots, or movies full of attractive characters flirting with one another. I'm talking full-blown chick flicks. Seriously, I go out of my way to watch them. I've seen them in movie theaters. And on more than one occasion, I've been the only unaccompanied man there. I've also said before that I consider myself a big romance fan, but I don't think I've truly put my fondness for romance in its full context. Yes, I still love my traditional superhero movies, as well as generic action movies, but I've always had a strong appreciation for romance. And I still think it's somewhat taboo, a straight male who loves chick flicks. I feel like things have gotten better in recent years, but the stigma is still there. So, in the spirit of giving a big middle finger to that stigma, I'm going to use this video to celebrate my favorite romance movie at the moment, No Strings Attached. It's a movie I never expected to enjoy as much as I did, let alone have it become my all-time favorite. But it somehow found a way to raise the bar for just how great an unapologetic romance movie could be. Now, to appreciate why I love this movie so much and everything I think it did right, I'll have to offer a little background, as well as some major spoilers. So, if you haven't seen this movie yet, you have been warned. On top of that, I should also note that this movie contains sex, sexuality, and partial nudity, which includes a full shot of Ashton Kutcher's butt. While I think this movie was very mature and tasteful in how it approached sex and relationships, I understand if that makes some people uncomfortable. So, you have been warned on that front as well. This movie is, after all, rated R. That being said, there is plenty of substance to go along with the sex appeal in this movie. On the surface, this movie appears to be more romantic comedy than full-fledged chick flick. That was how it was marketed when it first came out back in 2011. It even offered some solid star power with Ashton Kutcher and future Thor, Natalie Portman. In terms of story, the underlying premise of No Strings Attached is fairly basic. Two healthy, young, consenting adults decide to enter into a sexual relationship, minus the whole dating, love, or relationship drama. Now, it's not a wholly novel concept. More than a few stories and subplots have explored it. Some attempt a certain level of depth. Others become a bit too pornographic, for lack of a better word. No Strings Attached favors the former more than the latter, but it does try to include a little bit of both. But even on a conceptual level, this movie had a lot of things working against it, at least in my opinion. It's an incredibly common romance trope. Two people decide to eschew traditional dating methods and just stick to sex. Now, the reasons for doing so vary. Sometimes they just don't want anything serious. It's more about filling a personal need rather than finding love. And in most romantic narratives, it starts off fun and sexy. Then things get serious when deeper emotions and jealousy enter the picture. Eventually, both characters realize they love each other, they confess their love, and that's the end of that. It's not overly elaborate, and it can make for a decent love story when done right. The problem is it's rarely done right, not just in movies, but in any medium. It also tends to be painfully predictable, so it's next to impossible to invoke meaningful drama. That's a big part of what kept me from seeing No Strings Attached for so many years. I really think the movie didn't have anything to offer aside from two attractive leads. Then, on a whim, I decided to check it out on Hulu one night. I was in the mood for something new and just couldn't find anything else. So I started watching it, fully expecting to turn it off halfway through once the plot settled into some fairly predictable patterns. But I freely admit I was dead wrong in that assumption. And I'm glad I was wrong. Because by the time the credits rolled on this movie, I was smiling from ear to ear and shaking my head in disbelief. This movie did something that I didn't expect it to do. I didn't even think it was possible, given the sheer volume of romantic content I've written and consumed over the years. But this movie really did it. It struck all the right emotional chords it needed to, and then some. Now, to appreciate that achievement, you can't just look at the movie through its general plot summary on Wikipedia or IMDb. That alone does not convey the larger complexities of this movie. At its core, No Strings Attached still follows the basic script of two people agreeing for casual sex in lieu of a formal relationship. However, what makes this movie stand out is how it navigates this premise through its two main characters, Emma Kurtzman and Adam Franklin. Because before these two ever start having sex, the movie takes the time to establish who they are and why they seek such an arrangement in the first place. Adam and Emma aren't just a couple of attractive strangers who cross paths and decide they really like sex. In fact, they've actually known each other for years, albeit informally. The first 10 minutes of the movie are dedicated to showing how these two find themselves in a frustrating place with respect to their personal lives. Adam has just broken up with his girlfriend Vanessa, a character who has more than a few quirks to say the least. Then his father, an eccentric former TV star, decides to start dating her. And naturally, that leaves Adam pretty messed up. Emma's situation isn't much better. Before she and Adam reconnect, her father dies, and she does not demonstrate the healthy coping skills you'd expect. She doesn't come off as cold or callous, but it's clear that she is not inclined to vent her emotions, even when she probably should. Later on, her sister Katie is getting married, and her coping skills still haven't improved. Emma is steadfast in being her own person, detached and not the least bit vulnerable. Given the losses she suffered, it's a somewhat understandable state. But all that unromantic exposition does something critical for the story. It makes it clear that neither Emma nor Adam are complete wrecks, but they're trying to navigate difficult personal matters. They're just failing miserably every step of the way. Moreover, those issues have nothing to do with romance, sex, or loneliness. They're legitimate, relatable issues that real people deal with, even if they're not as attractive as Ashton Kutcher or Natalie Portman. That makes their problems and their need for comfort feel more genuine. It also makes their pursuit of a more casual, less complicated relationship more understandable. This is where both the story and the romantic chemistry in No Strings Attached gains much of its appeal. Granted, it helps that it's a very sexy appeal, as is to be expected with Ashton Kutcher and Natalie Portman, but that's still a secondary appeal for the most part. Because as Adam and Emma pursue this new arrangement, we say that it's not just fun and sexy, it's genuinely good for them. Being together in this unique arrangement helps them in so many ways. They're better able to navigate the other issues unfolding in their lives. It affects their professional lives. At the time, Adam is trying to make it as a writer on a TV show, and Emma is trying to further her career as a doctor. Again, both pursuits have nothing to do with romance, but being together makes them better able to pursue these efforts. Some of the other issues they face are a lot more personal. Adam's famous father is a heavy source of drama. He's dense, immature, and impulsive. And dating Vanessa only compounds those traits. And Emma still remains distant from her family, despite their best efforts to reconnect. But no matter the issues, this casual sexual relationship helps Emma and Adam in ways that are subtle, but critical. Being together, even if it isn't romantic at the outset, helps them re-examine what they want in a relationship. Even when new feelings and emotions enter the picture, they help each other get through it. And it eventually gets to a point where you just can't help but root for them, both as individuals and a couple. And yes, that predictable romantic turn does happen, but even if you see it coming, it still has just the right impact. That journey that Adam and Emma take to becoming more than casual lovers is a bit chaotic. And considering how predictable stories like this tend to be, it's probably the most refreshing part of No Strings Attached. The full extent of that romance doesn't blossom all at once. There are also some major setbacks along the way. There's still a clear and logical progression with Adam and Emma's romantic journey. They start out as casual acquaintances. Then they start enjoying each other's company. Then they become friends. Then they become lovers. Then they start to legitimately care about one another. Then they start to develop feelings for one another. Then they confront those feelings. They try to avoid them. They even run from them at one point. But eventually, they fall in love. Again, it's not a smooth transition. What Adam and Emma want from one another seems to fluctuate throughout the movie, which in turn makes it feel very human. Because let's face it, people in general aren't always great at understanding or sharing their emotions. Adam and Emma just struggle a lot more than most. While the love never comes off as one-sided or shallow, it also never feels like a bland love story in the mold of a fairy tale. What Adam and Emma have is more complicated. And it kinda has to be. They're both complicated individuals. It's understandable and a bit fitting that their dynamics are so messy. It helps sell to us, the audience, these two really have fallen in love, one you can definitely see lasting once the credits finish rolling. In addition, No Strings Attached also managed to avoid a common trap of making sex this huge impediment to real romance. In many similar romantic narratives, sex is often framed as this make or break act for a couple. Either having sex destroys the romance, or it makes the romance inevitable. It often gives the impression that you can't have sex without falling in love, or that sex somehow undermines true love. Beyond reinforcing unhealthy and outdated attitudes about sex, that sort of dynamic often undercuts the true substance of the romance. It implies that it's entirely contingent on sex in order to blossom. But both the romance and the sex in No Strings Attached is portrayed with more complexity. One never depends too much on the other. But most importantly, they do plenty to complement one another. Because ultimately, great sex isn't the reason Emma and Adam start to fall in love. More than anything else, it acts as a catalyst. By being together in an intimate sense, they're not just happier and more satisfied. They become tangibly better at dealing with the various challenges of their respective lives. Adam is better able to deal with his father's antics. Emma is better able to deal with the drama surrounding her family. They are, by nearly every measure, good for one another. It can foster a healthy friendship and a healthy romance. In Adam and Emma's case, it just happened to go the romantic route. They can still stand on their own 2 feet as individuals, but they're just better when they're together. Granted, they do fight that at first, especially Emma, and they still make some mistakes along the way. But ultimately, they do find a way to come together. By the end of the movie, it's well established that these two people want to be together. But it never comes off as an inevitability, which also happens to be an all too common cliche in love stories. Instead, Emma and Adam simply get together because they choose to. And that, in my opinion, is more powerful than any star-crossed lovers trope. Overall, the love that Emma and Adam find is not some burden that provokes jealousy or loneliness. Their love works because it's real, sincere, and genuine. That's what made the final few minutes of the movie the most cathartic I've ever experienced in a romance movie. There's plenty of drama, but there's also some moments of light comedy to help balance things out. That perfect balance, and all the other things it did so right, including the sexy parts, is what helped seal No Strings Attached as my favorite romance movie. There are many other components to this movie that I could praise. But for now, I'll just encourage anyone out there with a taste for romance to check this movie out. Just give it a chance like I did. And even if you're not a romance fan, check it out. Let me know if it has a similar impact. Now, I don't doubt that there will be more romance movies that'll come along and challenge No Strings Attached for the title of my favorite romance movie. Like I've said before, I watch a lot more romance movies than most straight men. And it may only be a matter of time before another movie comes along and supplants No Strings Attached. Honestly, I look forward to that day. But for now, I'll just say that No Strings Attached set the bar pretty damn high. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for joining me in my world. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, take care and stay safe.